So, hello everyone, and
Hi.
welcome to the Thinking Out Loud podcasts. Wait.
Welcome to the Thinking Out Loud
Hi, everyone.
podcast. Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to the Thinking Out Loud
Thinking
podcast
Out Loud podcast.
with your host
Tesh.
and George. Today's episode is going to be about class systems and how they're rigged against us, and how, what are they? Who knows? Does anyone even know what a class system is?
This is a really interesting suggestion that you made for an episode, and we were
this one came from me.
This one came from you because I think it's like very much your space. Like, this is the type of conversations that you like having, and also like just it's so related to history as well, and the history of like the world and the way that the world has become civilized and the way we've advanced as a population and as a species.
Exactly.
So yeah, I thought it was really interesting that you brought it up because it's something that we talk about in our day-to-day life, right? When we talk about like cost of living and like struggling, and then there's people who are making so much money, and it's like, how are they doing that? And we've got millionaires and all this, but we don't know the actual ins and outs of it. Like, it's so complicated that we just know the surface level. And that's something that you brought up as well, and I think that we're going to delve into in this episode, is around why is it so complicated, and like what are class systems, and why should we actually know about them? And like, it's like I said, it's something that we just talk about in passing, but we don't actually know the ins and outs of it.
Yeah, I think in a way it's weird. Like, we kind of do. We don't know what it is on like, you can't really define it and come up with it in any sort of. Sorry, I saw you looking at me.
I wasn't.
We can't. It looked like you were looking at my mic, like, bring it closer, do this, do that.
Oh,
No, so it's an interesting point that you make. I think we can't really define it in any specific way what class systems are, but like you said, it involves every single aspect of our life, and we're always talking about things that relate to class system without actually knowing that we're doing that. So when you complain about the cost of living, or when you complain about how much you have to work, or when you complain about how your boss makes more than you, but that your boss doesn't do as much work as you,
Literally.
that is related to class systems.
Literally.
All of it.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, it is confusing, and I think it's made intentionally confusing.
Like, it's meant to be complicated. It's kind of like Centrelink is meant to be complicated to access because they don't want you to know. They don't want you to access these services. And similarly,
your
they don't
insurance
really
they make it so hard for you to actually claim.
To claim and also understand like the legal jargon and everything. Like, I think it's like purposely made to be complicated to create a barrier for the everyday person to access supports, access services, and even just have like a level of comprehension of like what is about their life, like, and all these things are like, is out of their control. It's just something that you get given. Like, this is your insurance and this is your superannuation. Like, what even is superannuation?
Exactly.
So,
well,
like,
this is where your tax bracket is. This is how you fit in. This is what your return will be.
Why did you pick this topic? Like, what interests you about this topic?
This is something I've thought about on and off. It involves history, and it involves how we've evolved as a society, and then the rules that we've put in place. And I've always been interested in history and systems of government and economy, and those kind of all relate to class systems. But even more recently, just in our own lives, doing tax returns and and just how needlessly complicated some of it is.
Have you done your tax, by the way?
No, I'm still in the
You
process
need to
of
do
doing
your
it.
tax.
So I do, I'm doing it. It just takes a little while. And then I'm like, there's a lot of people around me that get like...
accountants.
Well, they get accountants, but I'm just, in terms of how much money they get back, they'll get like $2,000. And then another friend I have is like, I'm getting $25,000 on my tax back. So what are they doing differently? What kind of information do they have? A lot of them have like a family accountant, or like someone in their family that works in finance that is privy to all the little secrets you can use. Yeah. Whereas most people, they either don't even get any tax back, they end up paying like a debt on it, like a debit, or, they get like $500.
Question, no matter what, like no matter whichever way you do your tax, is it still always done through MyGov, like the ATO?
Yeah. Australian Taxation Office.
So like no matter whether you have a family accountant or whatever, or whether you're doing it, you know the hacks and all this, it's still like technically lodged on that website.
Yeah, it's always
not
gonna
lodged
be
in any other way or like paper way. There's no other way that like businesses do it. Because I thought like I had the accountant that did mine for when we had the house on rent, and they did it. So they would have accessed ATO through like the business ATO,
Yeah.
where they can then link in with your account, like as the client.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's still all
Like,
done on that same platform.
Yeah. So when you do your tax return as well, you get the option. I'm pretty sure you get the option. Is like, are you filing this for yourself or someone else?
For sure, yeah.
I think you have that option. I can't remember.
Yeah, it did, yeah.
So you can do that, and that's probably what they do. Like, yes, I'm
Yeah.
filing it for this person. I'm this business,
This
whatever.
business, yeah.
But yeah, I was interested in it for all those other reasons, and then more recently, that what brought this to my mind is just like our tax system here in Australia, and I was just thinking about the fact that the way the tax brackets work and the way that
Cooked.
people in the the top 1%, the upper class in terms of class systems,
Yeah, literally.
they're privy to all these rules and how they can manipulate systems in order to avoid paying tax or get the most tax back they can. So that, when you have these tax brackets, like, once you're being paid, whatever it is, up to like 100 grand, you're in this tax bracket, then you're in the next one, and then like it's 200 grand plus, and that's just the top bracket. People in that one can avoid paying what is...
Stop for a second. Okay.
People in that one can avoid paying whatever the tax is because they know all the secrets. But
Tax Secrets of the Rich. That's like the book that you got. I recommended that to someone at Run Club.
What is a class system?
Put
what
it
are
in
classes? How do you even know what class you fit into?
Say it again. Because I was going to say, put it in a nice blender. So say it again. I had an intrusive thought.
Okay. So anyway.
So basically that's
what got me interested.
Let me say that.
Okay.
So basically that's sort of what got you interested in it, just thinking about the entire system as a whole, and then most recently around the tax and how complicated it is to do your tax. So let's just jump into it. Let's jump into what our thoughts are. This is actually like a very big learning curve for me. Like, I know it very similarly to the way that I described, just very much surface level. And I'm very much in the mindset of like, fuck the rich, like, or like, not really fuck the rich, but more like,
fuck the system.
Fuck the system. Like, I want to know what the rich people are doing to be able to get there, because they obviously know the loopholes. They obviously know these hacks. They're smart people. They didn't just you don't just get rich. You don't just fall on top of money. Like, how people say, like, I'm too scared to go to the gym because I'll get bulky. I was like, you don't just get bulky.
You
like,
pick up a dumbbell and then you're like Arnold.
Yeah, it takes time, effort, research, work, and consistency. So it's like, I want to know that. And I want to know... Yeah, so I think this whole episode is going to be a big learning curve for me, and it's just so interesting. So let's jump right into it. What are class systems? What are they? What's a class?
Exactly. Right from the get-go, it can be confusing. So a class system...
How far back do you go?
Yeah, how far back do you go? And I'm by no means an expert either. Like, you have surface level knowledge. I don't really have that much knowledge. I haven't studied this at all.
No.
This is
true.
Something I'm interested in, and something that I think is...
You know more than me.
Yeah. This is something I think is like I guess kind of broken. But it's, at this point, the best thing we've come up with.
Capitalism.
Yeah, but we'll get into that later. I think, so what are classes? How do you know what class you're in? So there's lots of different countries, I think, run their own, they kind of have different systems of this, of class, and they break things up slightly differently. In the way things work in Australia, you have something called a lower class, a lower middle class, upper middle class, and upper class. So, what's that, 5 classes?
Where do you think we fit? Upper middle class? Or just middle class?
Probably straight middle class.
Straight middle class.
And this is the thing, that question is a great question to ask, because where do you think you fit?
Where do you think you fit?
What's the definition?
Yeah, exactly. It's
there
grey
isn't.
area.
You can't really go to a dictionary or Google, like, what class am I in? And it'll ask you, like, what's your salary? Do you have a house? You're in this class. But some of those things are just, like, those questions, what is your salary? What do you own a business? Do you own a home? Do you own a car? Do you have, like, people that depend on you, and you have family that you look after? Like,
children?
Do you spend money on children? Dependents, yeah. Those can sort of play a role as to where you would fall on that class scale. But it is something that it's not defined, but it is something you could see or you could feel. So you could probably have a general idea of, I'm probably in X class because of
these things.
And you would know your own sort of financial affairs and where you're sitting in that. So someone, as an example though, if you're someone who lives in government housing and you don't have a job, and you get Centrelink payments or something as support, you're probably someone that falls in the lower class. If you're someone who owns a business, you get most of your money from that business. You have a bunch of investment properties. You own your car. You have, you go on holidays like 4 times a year. You're probably someone who's in upper middle or upper class.
Yeah.
Those are the sorts of things. If you're someone who works like 9 to 5 every day, or you're like a tradie that's going fly in, fly out, and you're spending a lot of your time working, you might be middle class, lower middle. It depends on what your expenses are.
And also I think a good way to sort of look at it as well is, are you week to week? Like, are you expense, like hand to mouth type of, is that your situation? I think when you consider like being hand to mouth, you're probably like middle class. And then I think if you're not even scraping by and you're potentially not even getting enough money on a weekly basis, or however long you want to measure it as, then you're probably lower class as well. And also I think, side point, but I think not side point, kind of like related, it's fluid as well, because life changes all the time.
Yeah, you don't exist in those classes
forever.
Finish your point, actually. Sorry.
But also, I think this is something we can talk about later, but I think, how often do we hear stories about people who are like, on paper, in the middle class or upper middle class situation, like they have a great job and they have a house and they have a car, but they are still struggling to get by? That's when you then think about, what are your individual means, like individual needs and things like that. So it could be self-inflicted, like what are they spending their money on? Do they have an addiction? Do they have a, like,
Are they
spending like unhealthy spending habits?
Living above their means?
Or like, are they living, like an individual person, so are they living above their means? Or is this where like the rigged part of it comes in? Is where like they're making all this money, but it's all going to tax, and then they're paying all these extra things and these premiums that they feel like they can't get out of, and still left with like rates, house rates, mortgage, interest rates going up. Yeah. So yeah, that's like an interesting point too. But continue.
That is and that's kind of exactly what I was going to get onto next. Is that those classes aren't fluid. You can move between them, but the process of moving between them is made very difficult for you, and I think that is intentional. So like how you were saying, is that the tax system? Is that the more money you make, the more of it you get taxed, so you still stay within your bracket.
Exactly.
And then the things like interest rates go up, cost of living goes up, and your wages are not going up in flux with that. So you're staying in your same class. You're keeping your head above water, but you're not really ever exceeding. Like, you would think if you work a job and you get promotions, you're just going to go up in your job and up in the class.
That's like the lie that we're sold, I think. It's like, keep working hard, keep like showing your loyalty to your business and your company, and you'll keep going up and you'll be making more money. But like, do you? Like,
exactly, yeah. Like... And there's another way to define class systems, and it sort of gets into a bit more of the, I guess, economics of the conversation, where there's what's the theory? It's related to Marxism, which is, I don't know that much about Marxism, but the actual definition of class systems, it's only broken up into 2 classes instead of, we had 5 before. And I think it still applies to all the different class systems there is. You've got a working class, and then you have your elite or your upper class. Oh yeah. And the difference there is, so when I was talking about lower middle, upper middle, and upper class, you really only need, like, those lower middle and upper middle, they're kind of just those people that are, I guess, falling into lower or merging into upper, or however you want to describe it. But really, you could just break that into 3, and most people exist in the middle class.
Lower, middle, and elite? Wait, working middle?
Lower, middle, and upper.
Yeah.
I'm just going back to that for a second.
Okay, yeah.
So that was 5, but you could really put that into 3.
Yeah.
And you've got, the top 1% in the upper, and the bottom sort of low percent, the bottom like 1 to 2, whatever percent in the lower. And most people fit in that middle class. And then in the Marxism, Karl Marx theory of this whole of class systems, you've got working class and upper class.
Yeah.
You've got a very small percentage of people in the upper class and a huge majority everyone else in that working class.
Yeah.
And that balance is intentional. The upper class want people to stay in that lower class because you can't be rich and have all these things, like all this luxury, if there's no one below you to provide it to you. So why would they want more people to come up where they are? Then it's like the whole thing, if everyone's special, no one is. If everyone's rich, no one is. And I think
that becomes the norm.
That becomes the norm, and there's no one to do sort of the menial things that make luxury items and luxury things exist.
Exactly. Sorry. Question.
Mm-hmm.
How do the rich and powerful people become rich and powerful? Is it majority of the time just acquired through generational wealth? So, like, this has been happening for so long. So someone, at some stage, had to break out of their class system. Someone at some stage had to break out of their class system to then become rich and powerful, and then carried on the rich and powerfulness for generations to come.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's not feasible, or it's pretty hard to believe that when class systems were made, the families that were on top when they were made are the same related to the ones that are on top now.
It's not feasible.
Yeah, it's not feasible.
Really?
Well, okay.
Because there's like famous families, you know.
Yeah,
like,
there are.
The
I just mean
families and.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the other one I can think of.
Not all of them. I'm saying there's bound to be some.
Yeah.
Because if your family is staying alive, and you're rich, and you just have a lot of money or property or resources, those will probably stay in your family. But as your family grows, those resources kind of get split through your family, and they could be diluted.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible to rise out of your class and become a rich person. And I think that's happened a lot with businesses today, which is why people do say that capitalism is a good option, because people have the potential for that. But I don't know in long term if it's sustainable. And I'll come back to that point because I wanted to go back to sort of the historical foundations of class systems. Like, I think if you go back in history, there's always been some sort of differentiation in society for people who are poor and rich, and that's just always existed. And when society was first formed, and people had jobs to do to keep this society going, there were certain people that had more resources and certain people that had less. There were certain people that had skills that were more useful and certain people that had skills that weren't as useful. And that creates an imbalance in the society, and then you get someone on top. So if I go back to...
Who set those standards, like who's useful and who's not useful?
Well, if you have someone...
in terms of the needs of the society at the time.
If you have someone...
For example.
Okay, well, if you think about... I think there was I remember reading some, early civilizations in Asia where you have it's like a group of people, and there's someone who owns a vast majority of farmland, and they have all of the food.
Yeah.
They have all the food resources, and they supply that to everyone in the town.
Yeah.
That person becomes the leader because they have all the bargaining power. Yeah. Everyone wants their food. They need food to live. This person has all the food. Yeah. So in exchange for I'll give you some food if you do this for me, or if you give me gold, or if you make some clothes for me.
Yeah.
And now this person is like, they have all they have the resources. It's not money, but they have
what people need.
They have what people need, and so they become in power. And that just over time, society goes from a little village to a town to a city.
This is a society.
We live in a society.
We live in a society.
This is a society. No, but that's just at a very basic level how that worked, like in ancient history.
It wasn't. God, so fucking yawning.
This is so boring. So that's how that worked.
It's not boring. I'm just sleepy.
So that is a pretty simple thing to understand.
It is, yeah.
And I mean, it's not like that's wrong. That's just how society worked. People had things that they needed, and they did things in exchange.
What is right? What is wrong? Like, we're humans. We're experimenting as we go. Like, if we think about, like, the little, villagers back in the day, like, they didn't have it all together, just like we don't have it all together today despite having technology. Like, we're all just experimenting with things.
Yeah, I think...
There are still people who are a little bit more, like, smart up there, or cunning, I think, a bit more aware, and they're the ones that can sometimes take advantage of people who perhaps don't have that mindset or aren't, thinking in that way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's hard. It's a side point, but I'm just like, what is right or wrong? Like, if capitalism, if these class systems is not what the right thing is, then what is? Like, can we really have a fully peaceful and fully functioning world? Like, can we? Don't answer that. That's the question that we have to talk about another time. But, like, that's what makes me think about this when we talk about this topic. Like, there's so many flaws with it. Like, how do we make a perfect world? Like, the animal kingdom would have this too. They would have not class. They have class systems too.
They have hierarchies and their prides of lions and things. Yeah,
like this is just nature,
society and social science.
Crazy.
But
anyway, continue.
Maybe this is still part of a topic for a different episode, but what I wanted to say when you were talking then is how, like, shallow and shallow, or I don't know. It's very not deep. This society and the
Just say, like, shallow. Say it again.
No, because shallow has the connotation of, like, oh, you're so shallow. But I meant like it's a thin crust that we're on where we think we're in a very civilized society, and it's been like this forever. And this is just how we do things, and this is the law, and that's how life works. But it hasn't been that way for very long. We haven't had, like, justice, the justice system we have now, the laws, the constitutions, the roads, the schools, the universities, the modern medicine. That has not existed for very long. You go back a few generations, and life is very different. But we live now as though this is how things have always been, and they always will be.
Meaning we have very limited. Majority of the population has a very shallow understanding of history. And, like, where we came from.
Yes, but all I mean is, like, I feel like the society we live in now is, like, one or two major events away from, like, it could crumble.
Yeah, it is.
It's not, like, it's not very, what? It's not, this foundation isn't as strong as we think it is. Sort of, like, shallow understanding of it is.
Okay.
But that's still not, like, I just said that word now. My meaning is, like, we're like, haha, we're walking, everything, like, imagine walking on, like, we're walking on ice over a river, and we're like, oh, this ice is so thick, we've done this forever, this is great. But really, you're one, like, strong step away from falling into the water and dying. Like, I know what you mean. You're looking at me like you don't. So
I know what you mean, but I'm also a little confused. So you're saying, I understand what you're saying. We act as if we have been doing things the way that we've been doing things for the longest time. But in fact, we haven't. It's new. It's relatively new because obviously I imagine it's from the boom of, like,
technology boom. Like, the world hasn't even been this connected for very long.
The way that we think that, whatever. And we think it's a lot stronger, we have a lot stronger of a foundation than we actually do. But what's your point about that? Like, that's true, okay.
My point is that people have the understanding that, like, these class systems
have been around forever.
And
so what were they like before?
And that they can't change, and that this is, like,
this is the way it is.
This is the way it is.
This is the way we've always lived.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that something better isn't possible.
Okay.
It's hard because you've got all these different systems of government and economy, like capitalism, communism, socialism, Marxism, totalitarianism, all these different types. A lot of them have been tried, and a lot of them have been corrupted from outside means, and
oh my god,
things aren't allowed to prosper in the right ways. But I think truthfully, in my own opinion, that capitalism is probably the best we have at the moment. But it is very flawed, and it could do with a lot of changes. Of
course, like anything.
But then you get into things where capitalism. So it's business. Like, it's basically, I can't give a proper definition. It's like people have a bit more power, and they can have their own businesses. The government doesn't have as much control over everything, as opposed to, like, if you had communism or something. you have your right to own a business and like free market and open market, so that you can compete, and by that margin, hopefully, like, you'll get better products because you'll have competition, and competition breeds innovation and cheaper products, cheaper resources for everyone. But it doesn't work out that way because in Australia there's a duopoly.
What's that?
Coles and Woolies.
As
an example.
Coles and Woolies fighting for the same...
Well, they're not really fighting, they're working together, and they're fighting all the small businesses that want to rise up against them.
They're this also is an fighting example. Each other.
Yeah, but like not really.
Yeah.
Like, they're fighting each other to be the number one, maybe. But, it's a pretty sweet deal for them anyway.
Regardless.
It's a pretty 50-50 split. People will just go to whatever's closer to them. Yeah. They won't be loyal to Coles or Woolies. Yeah. They'll just go to whatever's closer. Well, there's no point. Yeah. Loyal to whoever you want. They're both the same. But this is just an example of how capitalism has its failings.
Yeah, of course.
And it can fall apart. But that's a big sidetrack, but also not really, because it's still related to class.
Connected.
Class. Why are you in a certain class? Because of your personal, like, financial and economic position, and you can't have that if you don't exist in an economy, and you can't have an economy without a capitalism, and you can't have that without systems of government.
Yeah.
So it's all related.
Yeah.
But we've been sidetracked. I want to turn to my notes. So I think there's something I found that was a really interesting quote. I don't fully believe in it, but I think it helps to understand class systems a little better.
Okay.
And there was, if your body works for money, then you're low class or middle class. If your brain works for money, you're middle or upper class. And if your money works for you, you're upper class.
Yeah, we spoke about this the other day.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Wait, let me share mine.
Share your thoughts. I've been talking for a really long time.
Yeah, I'm getting tired. I need a cup of chai.
Do you want to have
I need chai.
Chai break?
Yeah, I need a chai intermission.
Well, hold on.
I'll share my thoughts.
I'll go make a chai.
No.
I'll start making... You can have... This is Teshi's Opinion Hour. We have new segments on this show.
It's not hour.
Teshi's Opinion Minute. It's an hour. It's not really an hour. It's just how people call segments. This is Teshi's Opinion. 3 minutes and 33 seconds exactly specifically. While Mera, Mujhe...
No.
Chai?
नहीं.
Chai पीनी है?
हाँ जी.
मेरा make it.
जाओ और चाय बनाओ.
जाओ और चाय बनाओ.
तुम जाओ.
तुम
जाओ और चाय बनाओ.
तुम जाओ और चाय बनाओ.
हाँ. And then you'll say कि हाँ जी मैं जा रहा हूँ चाय बनाने के लिए.
हाँ जी मैं चाय और 11 बजे ने.
हाँ जी मैं जा रहा हूँ. चाय बनाने के लिए.
चाय बनाने के लिए.
चाय बनाने के लिए.
चाय बनाने के लिए.
चाय बनाने के लिए. Okay, जाओ. So we're taking a little chai break. George is gonna go make chai, and I'm gonna share my thoughts on that quote.
So you can still hear me because my mic is here.
If your body works for you, you are low class. If your brain works for you, you are middle class. And if your money works for you, you are upper class. And so I think this is something similar to George's opinion, because we spoke about this the other day. And I think I don't fully agree with the body and brain part, because it's sort of condescending in a way and insinuating that people who use their body to work or to make money are in some way less
lower
than
and less,
or stupid, or that they're only worth something like less. I understand where it comes from, because it comes from labor. Laboring jobs is generally like the easiest job to do because you just have the body and you do it. But I feel like it's condescending, and it's a harmful way to think. But I see where that comes from, and it's interesting, especially the last point. But if your money works for you, then you're upper class, because realistically, I feel like the only way to break out of the system and break out of your class system and actually be able to create more financial gain and freedom, I suppose, in your life, is if you find a way to bring in cash flow passively and automatically, or in a way where your cash is generating cash, like your money is generating money. That's like the smartest way. How do we do that? Like, that's like a debate that I feel like is just big all the time, and especially now just on social media. Like, I'm sure everyone's seen things like Do you want 10K months? Do you want financial freedom? Like, join this network marketing scheme, and you can too. You know, and so like, there's definitely good ways and there's definitely scammy ways, but I think that there's ways. It's just like, for example, property as well. Like, people who are in property and who have either gotten lucky or have the funds to be able to have multiple investment properties. That's like a way of having passive income eventually, because you can be making money through, like, you make money automatically because it's just coming in.
Yeah.
Through the house, through the property and investments. So that's my thoughts. What do you think? Do you agree? It's pretty similar?
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
So I agree with, I didn't fully, like, I think that quote sort of helps you to understand the way class systems are broken down. But yeah, I don't fully agree with it, because it's not like, oh, if you use your body for money, you're less than someone who uses their brain, and if you're using your brain, you're less than someone who just uses their money, their resources to make more resources.
I don't really see the second part too much. I don't see an issue with the second part because it makes sense. Where it's like, I fully agree that if you know how to make your money work for you, then you're high class.
Oh yeah, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with saying that, but there's nothing wrong, because that's the upper class option, and also, who doesn't want to make their money work for them? It just sounds very condescending. Like, someone who is a labourer and like they're working obviously hard. They're using their body, but you're gonna like think less of them because some like nerd with his glasses is going and using his brain and going, you're a nerd with your glasses, is using his brain and like he's better than them. Yeah,
like for example, like it's kind of like the topic around, you know, people say a lot, get into a respectable job, a job that's, you know, a good quality job. You know, people say a high class job.
Yeah.
So it's like doctors, lawyers, engineers. Like, you think about the brown immigrant experience. Like, every parent is like, you need to be a doctor, lawyer, and engineer because these are like the top three from a society perspective, the most important things. So it's like they're all brain jobs. No brown parent is like, beta, go become a tradie. Yeah. Go become a janitor. You know, don't do these. Even though tradies, janitors, like all these physically demanding jobs are just as important, and we need tradies just as much as we need doctors, because if we didn't have tradies, we wouldn't have homes. So it speaks to like that everyone has their own unique strengths, and we shouldn't be making those sorts of beliefs about people that if they work a certain job, they're less than. And also it also perpetuates the idea that your job is your entire identity. Like, someone could just enjoy doing a labor job, but also be really, really good at maths and be really good at physics or be really good at science in some way. You know, it's viewing people in a very superficial and what's the other word for
one-dimensional?
It's looking at people in a very superficial and one-dimensional way, whereas we are multifaceted. We have multiple interests and skill sets. So, side point, but yeah.
But that does put an interesting point forward. If they're all important, which they are,
then why are there class systems?
Oh, yeah, why is there a class system, and why are they paid differently? Some jobs are harder to get into than others. Some jobs are... You need more tradies than you need, like, brain surgeons.
Yeah, true. And then also you think about, okay, well, how much training is required to get these people to this stage, to be able to confidently do this? This is where then the conversation about degrees comes in. And it's like, oh, you need a degree. You need to do a job that you need a degree for, because in our society, degrees are well regarded. Degrees are considered like a way to measure your worth. People who don't have degrees often feel less than, because they feel like they didn't do what was required or expected of them from society to be a good functioning member of society.
Yeah.
And you know, so people who are like working in hospitality, or people who have only done certificates or things like that. And I say only as in like, I don't believe that, but like,
yeah,
I actually honestly believe we're in the best time ever now. Even though we're in the worst time, we're in the best time. People don't even need degrees to be making money. And we have free education online. So if you love physics, but you don't want to go and get a degree in physics, go learn physics online.
There's someone on YouTube who will teach you it.
There's someone on YouTube teaching you it for free. So
just because they love it.
So it just goes to show. But anyway, that's a side point. But anyway.
Everything's a side point. This podcast should be called The Side Point.
No. I want my tea now.
Yeah, I'll go get it. So, if it hasn't been made clear yet, this is a complex topic. It's filled with ambiguity. It's filled with ambiguity. And this is what I mean why I feel like it's intentional. It's made by design to be confusing and ambiguous. And I don't know how my work. I mean, I don't know. That's what it's
What?
like.
I don't know
I
what.
don't know what class I'm in.
I don't know what class I'm in. I didn't know.
Yeah. So.
I didn't know.
Yeah, and these class systems are designed, and I say design, I don't mean like they've come about by people in power, because people in power make the rules and they change the laws.
Yeah.
And so, of course, they're going to keep things sweet for themselves, and it's like it's an exclusive club, a VIP club. They don't want anyone else coming in.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Lexi.
Going,
That's it. They don't want people coming in. They're like, we are the 1% that we stay on top, and we're not letting people in.
Those in power stay in power. It's like,
What are you going to say?
it's like,
What are you going to say?
what?
What are you going to bring up? I was about to bring up something.
Oh, I was just going to say, there's a quote, history is written by the victor, which essentially,
Yeah.
you know, it's pretty obvious when I say it, but like, think of all the wars, you know, most of the time when you think back to like World War One, World War Two, and it's not a great analogy because of what was going on, but the good guys always, and they were good guys, but the good guys always win in these stories. History is written by the victor, and the victor can just say whatever they want because
Wait,
the
is the
loser's
victor always a good person,
history,
though?
No, but yes.
In their eyes.
In their eyes, and in the history books and the books that they write.
True.
So history is written by the victor because the loser's not around anymore.
They're dead.
They're dead.
They're dead or they're oppressed.
Their story cannot be told.
So
you can just
true.
say, "Oh, we came to this land and these savages attacked us, so we had to defend ourselves."
It makes me
And-
think of Australia. It's like, we came to this uninhabited land.
Yeah, that's a better analogy because I said World War Two just because the biggest war I could think of. But
Captain Cook came in and was like, oh, look at this free country. There's absolutely nobody here. I don't see anyone.
Well,
Not a soul. And then they see people
I
and
see
they're
people. Oh,
they look like shit. Let's ruin their lives. That's what he thought.
maybe he didn't write that down though. He probably wrote down.
Okay, so what did he actually write down?
I don't know. I don't know what he actually wrote down.
Okay.
I'm just saying by this quote, a lot of the time you will get history written through like the person holding the pen is the person who won the war. So they'll just say whatever they want to make themselves seem more noble and heroic and like humanitarian. And the person they defeated was some savage who.
What's this cognitive bias? It's like the confirmation bias or something. Like
Potentially, yeah.
It's like the bias where it's like they need to be in the right, even if they could be in the wrong. People who, are winning are going to portray themselves in a positive light, no matter what.
Yeah.
What is it? What was the quote?
History is written by the victor.
History is written by the victor. So throughout history, everything that we know about the wars and the famines and the genocides and the occupations, we know through the lens of the colonizers. We know through the lens of the victors. And the losers, per se, or the people who were oppressed or colonized,
Don't sit up there.
their stories were not told. They weren't even able to tell their stories. And now you think about when we're in this modern world and so many people who were oppressed for so long are finally coming out and having the courage at last to be able to tell their stories. Thank you. I want the Oreo cookie. It's tea time! Tea break. Have a break, guys. Have a cup of chai, have a coffee or a matcha, eat a little cookie. Take some time. Pause the episode if you want to go and grab a drink and get cozy. Or
You want to get cozy?
pause the episode, go and get a drink if you want to get cozy. Today we're trying the Coca-Cola Oreo cookies. Did you get one?
It's a mukbang now. No.
ASMR, ready?
That was pretty good.
We're back from the break.
We're back from the break.
Back from the chai
I
break.
didn't even sip my chai, I just ate a cookie.
Have a sip of your chai.
It's hot.
Yeah, I know, mine's hot.
It's very hot.
Okay, guys, we're back from the break. I
So-
hope you've had time to grab yourself a cup of chai, or a coffee, or a matcha, or a cacao, or anything, and let's get back into it.
Water, perhaps.
Oh yeah, please stay hydrated.
Cordial, perchance.
Water is a good option.
Voost.
Have you
Perhaps
had
a
your
Gatorade?
Voost? A blue Gatorade sent from the heavens above.
A Powerade, dare I ask?
Oh, yes.
Perhaps you happened upon a Maximus. On the rare occasion of torpedo? Anyway, sufficiently hydrated or cozy drinked. Let's continue. Like we were saying, class systems, I think they're intentionally designed to be really, really, really fucking confusing and ambiguous. And I think it's made that way by people in power, so that they can stay in power and that people can stay in their place. Because if you're in the upper class and you have a working class, say if you own a big business, you're the CEO of Amazon, you don't want all your employees to be the CEO of Amazon as well. That makes no sense. Why would you want that? You want them all to stay in the factory doing their job while you stay up at the top in your hammock eating strawberries and cream and stuff, like being luxurious.
Yeah.
So I think there is some intentional buffoonery happening with the laws, making them very difficult to understand. So I wrote a note, and it was also on a lot of little essays and papers I read because I was interested in the topic.
Yeah.
Laws and a lack of financial literacy and intentionally complex tax and finance laws lead to a society that finds it near impossible to break out of their class. Doth thou agree?
I doth agree. Doth agree. So elaborate on that.
Okay. Returning to something we were talking about at the start of the podcast. Isn't doing your taxes confusing?
So confusing.
Isn't there a sense of fear that if you get it wrong, you will be persecuted?
Literally!
For real.
Why am I gonna go to jail? Tax fraud. People go to jail for tax fraud. I'm like, am I committing tax fraud?
Do you know what they say?
What?
I actually don't know the number, and I'm going to be also wrong on the word, but it is not so they say if you get this wrong, you face the potential to be fined or debited. It's, as an example, I can't remember the what it says,
exact number,
but
yeah.
I can't remember the number or the word they use, but it's something like you will be debited 800 points. It doesn't say $2,000. It doesn't say
and it's what are points? I've never heard of
what are
system
points?
in my
What do you
life.
mean? What is some people might not even know what debited means. They might, I've got a debit card. What, you're going to give me money? Or points? Is this a point system? Once I get enough points, then I get fined? No. There's a conversion rate for points to money, and it's a lot of money.
How much is it?
Let me just look.
How
it
much
up so
is
I'm not
it?
going to be wrong. It's ridiculous. Amuse yourselves.
Amuse yourselves while we wait.
Play with yourselves.
More mukbang. I mean ASMR.
Okay.
Wait, what are you looking for?
The conversion rate of what? So let me just. So do you want to come back with a time?
at me?
Yeah, because you forgot what I was looking for.
Yeah. So what are you looking for?
You told me to look. So I'm looking for the conversion.
Did I tell you to look for it?
I don't know. We can go back in the footage and find out later. But I'm pretty sure at least I definitely told you, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were talking about how it doesn't say if you get this wrong, you will be fined $100 or whatever. It says you will receive this many
Debit points.
I found it. It's called penalty units. And here's a little thing from one of the what is this? It's a government website, ATO tax information. Base rate penalty unit and the behavior leading to a penalty, no shortfall amount.
Can I see?
That's what that says.
Okay.
Failure to take reasonable care, 20 penalty units. Recklessness, define recklessness please, 40 penalty units. Intentionally disregard, 60 penalty units. What is a penalty unit? Let's find out. Penalty units. How we calculate penalties, da-da-da-da-da. Notice how it's taking me a long time.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to find it. What the actual fuck? Have you not found it yet?
I think I have, but it's so massively
Convoluted.
It's such a high number that I can't. I'm not believing it.
Of dollars?
Yeah.
What?
I have to just double check something. So I might be wrong because this is ridiculously high. A penalty unit amount. So one penalty unit here is saying from as of the 1st of July 2023, one penalty unit is equal to $313. Now, if we go back to what I was saying before, the lowest, I think it was
20 penalties.
20 units
Yeah.
for, what was it?
For intentional disregard.
No, that was the highest one.
No, intentional use was the bottom.
The bottom of the table was the highest one.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, let me go back for you.
This is a rabbit hole.
No, it's not. It's related. Failure to take reasonable care.
Okay, yep.
20 units. Mm-hmm. 1 unit, 313. I've already closed it because I'm going to a calculator.
Quick, what's 313 times 20?
Can you beat me? Let's race. $6,260.
Okay, yeah.
You could receive that fine, minimum, for failing to take reasonable care.
Which means...
Now we have to go find out what that means. So I'd have to... failure to take reasonable care is very ambiguous in it.
So what we're saying is the ambiguity is what's creating this and perpetuating these class systems. Mm-hmm. Because it's keeping us, the people who are forced to do our taxes but aren't taught how to do our taxes in school. Let's talk about that. The education system's in on it. Like, we are then threatened with these sorts of, well, not threatened, but like these penalty rates are a possibility for us if we make a mistake, but we don't know how to avoid those mistakes. We don't necessarily know. We're not educated on those. And so the reason this ties in with the class systems conversation and why it's rigged is because it just perpetuates this same idea of keeping people in the middle class, people who don't have this knowledge and don't have this literacy, this financial literacy, to remain confused.
Yes.
So that they don't feel empowered to break so they don't feel empowered to break through those systems, and they're like, okay, I'll just follow and just do what everyone else is doing, and I'll just, okay, if this is how much I get, this is how much I get. They can't actually take control of their finances. Literally, their money is being taken from under them. Like, every single week they go to work. I'm saying they, like, this is me. Every single week we go to work, we make money, we come home with an income, and how much of that is taxed, and then we don't know how much we can actually claim back. And so that's what I'm saying. It's like we're paying so much, and it's completely out of our control. And because we don't have the financial literacy, we're not taught these things. We're not empowered to be in control of our finances. Then we don't do it. We just stay in that cycle and repeat that cycle just till the end of time.
Yeah. And I think what's another point as well, if you're in lower class, this is like something we've talked about. I feel like I think the word veganism comes up in every episode. Yeah. And this is just a comparison sort of thing. If you're someone who is in the lower class bracket, you're in survival mode. So you're not thinking about being you're not thinking about being ethical, about being vegan, because you don't care. You want to get something cheap and affordable and that can keep you going. Rightly so, like you don't have the capacity. You don't have the bandwidth to do that.
That's the argument.
This is the same when you're trying to get out of your class and you're in the lower class. You're not thinking about like the best way to use the tax system to get the best return. Yeah. You're trying to just make ends meet and keep getting a paycheck at the end of the week so you can like afford to pay your rent and afford to buy your food. You're not in a position to go out and go through the lengthy process of trying to educate yourself on this. Yeah. And
you don't have the time.
Which, by the way, the system changes all the time. So the argument as well I wanted to talk about
is getting educated.
The argument of getting educated and putting tax education in schools is that, the system always changes. It's too hard. I understand that, but I still don't believe it. There's fundamentals that you can still learn about money management that I think are very essential in
that
school.
We don't get taught,
Which we don't get taught at all. It should be a compulsory thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like, tax law 1A and textbook this. That changes every year. Who cares? Yeah,
it's an excuse. We could learn, like you said, the fundamentals should still be taught.
And when you're in the lower class, you were just saying, when you're in the lower class,
your nervous system is on survival mode. All you're actually able to consciously think about. It's not even like, you're physically incapable of thinking about those longer term goals or those longer term thoughts because you're literally just trying to get food on the table. You're literally just trying to survive and make ends meet. Whether that's financially or socially or, culturally, like however, you're just trying to survive and be safe.
Yeah.
And so it's impossible to do that.
Yeah. Think about someone who, they could work. There's people that work like 3 jobs. They do cleaning overnight. They then drive Uber for a few hours between going to their other desk admin job. How do you expect, what time do they have to do anything else? They're just trying to survive and they're not thinking, they might be thinking if I keep doing this, I can get out of my situation and get into a better one. But
There is like
it's really, if you just work your job, the way that the system is set up,
you will never leave.
You
your
won't
system.
leave that
You
bracket.
won't.
You'll stay in that bracket because it's going up more. Like your pay is not going up
At the same rate.
in step with anything.
With
So
at the same rate of like the cost of living. Mm-hmm. That's what I was saying. So this is bad. Like no one,
this is bad.
This is bad. What I'm about to say. You need to have multiple streams of income now in this day and age in order to
break out of
that and get out.
Freedom.
Yeah.
You can survive on one income. You can
survive on one income. Do you then have the funds to then... if you can survive on one income, do you then have the time to actually enjoy a quality of life? That's debatable. Depends on what job you have, of course. But not everyone is fortunate enough to have a job like, for example, I think about the people who are in the mines. Those jobs have a lot of pros and they also have a lot of cons. They pay a lot more than the everyday job, but then there's a lot more physical and emotional tax on the person because they're moving away from their family. They're going a week, working away for a whole week, then coming back. But then there's the pros. They have a whole week off and they can spend that time and the money that they're making to then enjoy that week off. So there's pros and cons. So it's not to say it's black and white, but it's also the fact that, yeah, like you said, yes, you can survive on one job, but it's just not black and white. Like I can't it's grey. It's grey and it's colourful. It's not even grey. It's like everyone's got such a unique situation. But you've got like categories. Like I think about people who are like tradies. You've got people in like hospitality. Then you've got people in like the military. Then you've got people in like FIFO jobs, however you say it.
FIFO fun jobs, yeah.
Those jobs, and then you've got brain jobs, degree jobs. And then you've got like business people. They're all, I don't know. What are the... I don't know.
Well, there's so many categories of jobs. There's so many things you could do. There are very... Like, yes, it is always grey, but the bottom line is that there is... Similar to what I was saying, the vast majority of people sit in the middle. In that bell curve, they're all in the middle. Yeah. Right? And those people just working their jobs won't get to the side they want to, which is the upper class side. They won't get there just doing their job. Like, they will survive. They can pay their house and they can have their house and their family, and people can be happy like that. You do whatever you want. But if you want to escape the class system, or you just feel like you want to...
You just want more.
You just want what you feel you maybe deserved.
It's like you know what it is? It's like just a sense of financial security. Just this sense that... Not even to be filthy rich. Like, I think most people just want to be able to get through a fortnight and not have to think about where the money is coming in, when the next payday will be. Not have to worry about that. Mm-hmm. And like what I mean by financial security is like being able to buy that coffee or like those things that bring you joy, or some clothes or things like that. Like I'm not ever going to promote like overconsumption or hyperconsumption because that's a whole other topic. Oh my god, we should do another episode on capitalism and hyperconsumption. But like the small joys in life without like stressing that like, oh, if they buy this coffee then they have to they have to
work an extra hour this week.
Yeah, I have to refrain from like buying it again, just this is what my mum and I were talking about. We were like, I don't want to be like filthy rich. Like I don't want to be hoarding wealth. I'm not interested in hoarding wealth. I just want to have enough money where I'm not worrying about these little things, these day-to-day things. Mm-hmm. And yes, of course everyone wants that, but can everyone have that? Because if everyone's got that, then there's...
this is the thing. I think that is pretty reasonable to have everyone want that.
Yes.
What's obviously not everyone can have a private jet, but everyone, I think it's fair for everyone to want to be able to buy something nice, like a treat.
Yeah.
Every now and then, with a tasty treat. A little treat for themselves, a little like present for their wife, a present for their kids, a surprise dinner for their husband, whatever. I just think that's not a crazy ask. That's a pretty nice life and a society to live in where that can just be for everyone.
Yeah, that would be the dream.
So I guess this is where, again, class systems is such a big issue, because now we sort of get into the topic of wealth disparity, which is something we talked about, I think, in the last episode, where at the start, where we were talking about the big Indian wedding right next to the slums, this wealth disparity.
That episode was about cultural appropriation.
Yeah.
Well, we started it with wealth disparity.
What a way to start it.
But it's relevant. It's relevant. Yeah, wealth disparity. Oh my god.
That's related to class systems. This is the whole 1% owns everything, and then everyone else is like just getting by.
Oh my god.
The disproportionate distribution of wealth if you could redistribute that, even, just shaving a little bit off the top of all the rich people, which is probably something that a million people have said over and over again. But if they just, like, what is it? Everyone wants to tax the rich, have them pay their fair share. But if you tax the rich, like, I don't really know what that does. We don't get their money. It just goes to the government. But
we can't kill the rich either.
No, because look, we've discussed this as well.
Yeah.
It's an interesting point to discuss whether we think rich people
are bad.
What did we say? There was the moral sort of.
Me. I was like, well, maybe they're not that bad, and you're like, they're not bad. They're just not a hater. Because I was saying, I was like, that's the that quote where it's like, you will never have a hater. Like, what was it? It was like,
someone doing better than you will never be like your hater.
Yeah, no, people who hate on you will always be doing less than you.
Yeah.
So people who are above you or doing more than you, or it's hard to even say that. I think it's more about people who are secure enough emotionally and, emotionally secure enough in their own achievements, don't feel the need to put other people down. So it's kind of like that mindset around how people treat you is a reflection of how they see themselves. So people who feel insecure about themselves, people who don't feel happy about where they're at in life and for some reason have a blockage, whether that's most of the time it's mental and emotional, and experiences that they had in their life. Mm-hmm. They will perpetuate that and project that onto other people because it's easier to make other people feel bad to make themselves feel bigger rather than take accountability of the fact that they aren't the person that they want to be yet. Do you know what I mean? So I think about this in the Courage to Be Disliked book. They talk about person A and person B. Like person A saying like, I want to be like person B is them perpetuating that idea that they aren't like person B. Mm-hmm. They're already separating themselves from person B.
Yeah, you've already made that separation.
You've already made that separation. I'm not like person B, but I wish I was.
Yeah.
And so many people project those insecurities onto person B.
Yeah.
And so that thing about, no one will be hating you if they're above you is they're just not necessarily above or below because that's all subjective, I think, as well. Like, wealth is subjective, and success is subjective, and achievements is subjective, but it comes from this deep-rooted sense of self-acceptance and security, like internal security. So if someone feels secure in their own achievements and their goals, if someone feels secure enough in their own achievements and what they're doing with their life, they don't feel the need to put other people down to make themselves feel bigger. Mm-hmm. It just won't come to them naturally because they're okay, they're satisfied.
Yeah.
People who hurt, people who hate, people who abuse are wounded inside. And the reason why I mentioned that is because you were saying that you don't have people who are in the top 1% hating on the lower because they're not concerned. They've got their wealth, they've got their success.
Typically, yeah, they're not going to hate on anyone.
So why did you bring that up?
Well, we were talking about wealth disparity, and I was about to say, like, the fact that wealth disparity exists seems like a societal sort of immoral thing in society, that there is such a wealth disparity thing. You've got someone who's got millions and millions and millions of dollars, and then someone who has just the clothes they're wearing and nothing else. So, and they live in the same country, in the same city, So, yeah, being that rich, you must have got there through some sort of immoral means, or you must not care about society, or you must be an immoral person, which is what I was about to say. But I don't really believe that, because there's a lot of people who want to succeed, they want to do well. If you're someone who's just started a cafe, obviously you want your cafe to do really well. And it starts to do well.
No one wants to be poor.
And no one wants to be poor. No one wants to struggle or to fail. And if you start a business and it starts to succeed, and then you open up another one because it's succeeding and those succeed, and then next minute you're skyrocketing into success, and you've got money now.
You shouldn't feel guilty about that.
Shouldn't feel guilty about that. No, and
as long as you've done it ethically and haven't exploited anyone in the process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is where I was saying, then you've got the deeds of a person is what makes them immoral, not how much money they have.
Not how much money they have.
So,
there's people who have no money at all and are extremely immoral. So it's not about the wealth. Yeah.
No, it's not about the wealth. And I think we're quick to sort of, and it sounds like I'm defending really like rich people, which I guess in a way I kind of am. We're quick to...
It's the tall poppy syndrome though. That's so rooted in the tall poppy.
Yeah. We're quick to sort of hate on and disregard someone who's really successful and who has a lot of money, and just blanket label them as immoral because of this wealth disparity that exists in the world. like, oh, how do you do this?
That's why
There's homeless people.
So that's what I said about the Ambani people, and one of my friends was like, we're so quick to discredit rich people and say that they're terrible people because of the way they use their money, even though they work to have that money. And it's a grey area for me, and I think for you too.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, but also you have so much resources. I feel like
If
then
you
it
were
comes
a
you have a
person-
moral obligation to
you
sort
do-
of be conscious.
Yeah, I feel like you do. If you're not ignorant to the world around you, you know where you live, and you especially like you know where you live, and you know the situation of people and other humans that exist on the same planet as you. You have the means to help some of them. You can't change the world, but you can definitely make a big impact. The more money you have, the bigger impact you can make. Yeah, like I was saying, it's the deeds of that person that make them immoral.
Yeah,
so if you've got someone who, like, I don't know who this person is. Say you're the CEO of Shein. You know, you make your money and you make your clothes by mass producing them and using sweatshops and paying people like 50 cents a day. But you profit off of that, off their blood and sweat, and your company makes lots of money, and those people don't see any of it, and they don't get any good working conditions. I don't know where this is just me talking about one specific example. I know Shein has sweatshops, but companies like that. So say you own a company like that, and you live in Australia, but your sweatshops are in Bangladesh and some random town in China or something. Your labor's there, and then you can sort of wash your hands and say, well, it's that country's labor laws. They don't pay them. It's not my fault. But you're the one utilizing them and keeping them alive. This is going for a long time.
Yeah, I'm like, do you have a point as to when we're ending?
No, but when you were talking before, like I was going to say this point, and this was the last point we were making, like on the morality of rich people, and then I was going to basically finish by saying, anyway, it's really it's grey, and we don't have an answer, but I hope that this has given you some sort of these are things that we ponder on, and there's
no outcome. There's no outcome. This type of conversation has no outcome.
Yeah,
this is not a key takeaway episode.
There's no lesson learned. There's no lesson learned. Now go and do this. It's not like that. It's just these are things to ponder on, and things to consider when you go about your day in the world. It's
a pretty fucking grim topic. Yeah. It actually makes me feel existential dread.
Okay, we won't release the episode.
No, I know. I think this episode's important to release. I'm just saying.
Oh, we could still release this audio.
Yeah, I know. Okay, let's talk about. We have to finish up soon, but I just want to make this one final point.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if you have money or not. You're still going to be an unhappy and exploitive and harmful person. And yeah, that's a whole other topic around.
That is a whole topic.
Can we how do we get a healed world? How can people how can we stop traumatizing our kids so they don't go up to be traumatized adults to then perpetrate this type of behavior?
Yeah.
I think that every abuser has been abused in some way because there's no reason, majority of the time, there's no reason for them to turn out that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, we should wrap up because that was a long
wrap up.
episode.
I think we should have a healed world. Anyway,
what's the takeaway from this episode?
There is no real takeaway.
The takeaway is that there's no takeaway.
Yeah.
What's the takeaway?
Can I say something?
What's the takeaway from this?
My hand is up.
Put your hand up. I mean, what is it? Yes.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I agree, but I think if you've listened to this episode and you've never really put that much thought into class systems, what they are or where you sit, I think at least a takeaway from this is that you could consider and ponder on that a little bit more. And maybe we're not experts, and and none of the stuff we said is valuable to you from an education point of view, but at least you could then go, oh, well, I wonder how class systems work, and go and do your own research. Or I wonder what class system I probably fit under, and how could I get out of this?
And it wasn't intended to be an educational episode anyway.
No, this is just an interesting topic to discuss.
It's just such an interesting topic, and for me, the takeaway is, holy shit, you could go in circles with this topic forever, because it's something that is so, so beyond our individual control.
Yeah.
The system, these social justice and social related topics.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like if we sat down and spoke about, if we spoke about Israel and Palestine. I don't know. I don't know if it's the same. It's just something that you're going to go in circles in forever because it's something that's so, so far out of our control. When I think about the circle of control model and like Bronfenbrenner's social ecological theory, and it's like you, the macro system, and the macro system, and like this, all what we're talking about is in the macro system. It's the stuff that we as individuals don't really have any control over. We can control our own individual, like how we react to it, how we respond to it, as best as we can. But ultimately, we belong in this society where not everything's in our control, and that sucks.
Yeah.
Okay, let's finish up this episode.
This has been one of the longest episodes.
I just think it's because it's such a complex topic. Anyway, let's end this. Thank you so much, guys, for listening, and we hope you enjoyed. We hope you learned something, and if you didn't, we hope you just enjoyed coming along for the ride.
Yep.
And I think it's just one of those topics that you'll always keep going in circles in. But it's, good to ponder and good to think and good to realize that although you may not have control over the entire system as a whole, there are certain things that you do have control over, and being able to take that control back and that power back is the first step.
Yep.
So get educated.
Get educated, Stinky.
So we hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for joining us for yet another episode of the Thinking Out Loud podcast. I'm your co-host, Tesh.
And I'm your co-host, George.
And we will see you at the next one.
Goodbye. Bye.